listeners. Welcome to another episode of Romance Unraveled. This is your host, Jacob Bozen.
And your co-host, Shell Rowan. Today we have with us my childhood friend. I've known her since I had to be at least 5 because I remember my dad built our first actual home that we lived in, and we moved into it when I was 5 years old. And Kim lived across the street from me. So welcome to the show, Kim.
Thank you.
Just tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Kim North, and I, like Michelle said, grew up in California, and we lived near each other till we were teenagers. And then about 13, we moved up to Redding, and then it took me to Hawaii, and now I'm in Arizona. But
Yeah.
Michelle and I have kept in touch.
Yeah, it's been great. It's really funny. I have a lot of friends from my childhood and early upbringing that I still stay in contact with. And even if years go by, it's always fun because people will say like, You've changed, but you haven't changed at all."
Yeah.
Because I tend to pick up with people where I left off.
Yep.
Anyway, it's been fun, and I really enjoyed going out to see you. I guess it was 2 years ago now.
Yes.
I better get myself out there soon.
Enjoy the 80-degree weather with us this week.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Maybe I should come before Christmas. I'm so over this. Or maybe I should come right after. I'll have to give you a call. I've got some stuff going on in January for me personally. But well, let's talk about dating. For a while, you were single for a long time. Didn't meet the love of your life until later in life.
Yes. Till we met when I was just turned 40. When I just turned 40, we met in prison, like all good love stories start.
In prison?
Explain that for our listeners.
Are you
He was a
serious?
Yes,
Yes.
he was a correctional officer, and I was a nurse. And
Okay.
he drove the ambulance and would take us out to, if there were medical emergencies, he would drive us in the ambulance to that yard and protect us.
It was meant to be.
No.
So tell us your dating story.
So my dating story that I'm going to share with you happened in the late 80s. So I was maybe 18 or 19 at the time. And my best friend, her boyfriend said, "Hey, I have this guy that is looking to, meet someone, and I was just wondering if you'd be interested in going out with him. He would take you guys to dinner, and then we'll meet back at my house, and we can play cards and drink beer, whatever." And so I said, "Sure." So when the guy called, he said, "Okay, give me your address. I'll pick you up for dinner." And I have no idea what it was, just intuition. I had never told anybody no before, but for some reason, I just told this guy, "No, I'm going to meet you at the restaurant." And that wasn't as popular back in the 80s. I mean,
Right.
people did it, but not like today. Everybody's a lot more safe. But
Yeah.
he wanted to, so we met at Sizzler, Daddy, the real nice restaurant back then. But so we went to Sizzler, and the one of the first red flags is he forgot his wallet.
Oh,
So that
I hate
that was
that.
nice. So I bought his dinner, and then no other really big red flags. And then after dinner, just small talk, and then we went back to my friend Jim's house, and then we were playing cards. And then every time I'd get up to go get drinks for everybody, I'd go into the kitchen. He would follow me, and he was just all hands, like super aggressive. I'm like, dude, I'm not hard to get, but I mean, Jesus, pump the brakes there, buddy. I mean, he was like crazy aggressive. And and then he kept getting up and making phone calls. This was the day before everybody having cell phones. So he'd get up and he'd borrow my friend's phone. He didn't ask him to use it, he just kept getting up and making phone calls. And it was just really bizarre. And so it was probably maybe an hour or two. I'm not exactly sure how long. And all of a sudden I hear a honk outside. And he goes, it's our ride. We're leaving. I said, "I'm not going anywhere with you." And he said, "Yes, you are." And he grabbed me and yanked me up from the table and started dragging me to the front door.
Oh my
What?
gosh.
What were
And
your
I was
friends doing?
I think we were just all in shock because, I'm like, how is this your friend? Like, my friend's a straight up, like, super nice guy. So I'm like, how do you even know this ass? I was just like in shock. Like, I couldn't believe it. And so they're just all just like standing there with their mouths open, like, is this really happening? And so I was screaming at him and fighting him, trying to get him to let me go. And finally, my friend Jim jumped up and yelled at him, "Let her go!" And started pulling me like a tug of war away from the guy.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
he finally left, and and we were just like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. And now I really need a beer. And just like all freaked out. And so the next morning, my dad and I are having breakfast, and he always read the paper every morning, sit around drinking his coffee, and all of a sudden I see this picture and I was like, oh my God, let me see that paper. And on the front page of the paper was this guy's picture. And he had went
The very next
down.
day?
Yes, I don't even know how, but it was the guys. He had went two doors down, him and his friends kicked in this lady's front door and they gang raped her.
What?
And I was like, oh my God, I just dodged the biggest bullet. And
After
I
he
was like,
left you.
yes. I was like, I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, thank God my intuition told me drive, so he didn't know where I lived. All he had is
Right.
my home phone number. But, I was like, thank God I listened to my intuition. So fast forward about a year to 2 years, maybe. I'm not exactly sure how far out. My dad and I were on a bowling league. And so, we're just bowling I don't know, Thursday night or something. And all of a sudden somebody puts their hands over my eyes and he's like, guess who? And I'm like saying all my guy friends' names because clearly I could tell it was a guy by his voice. And he let his hands go. I turned around and he's like right in my face.
That same guy,
Yes.
had he
I was
gone
like,
to prison or
oh,
like did he get in
yes.
trouble for what?
That's the funny part is then he's trying to explain to me why he had been gone for a year or two or how I can't remember exactly how long. I know I was 21 then, so it had to be like maybe 2 years or something. And I have to admit, I think I pooed myself. I was like, oh my God, he's like, standing there in my face. And I must have looked like I saw a ghost. I was so freaked out. And he made up some story about why he had been gone. He said, "Oh, I've been off at this school, some kind of schooling, and it was, out of state, and so I've been gone for whatever it was, a year and a half or something." And I was just thinking maybe we could go out again or something like that. I was just shaking. I was like so scared. And then thankfully it was my turn to bowl again. So I went up and bowled and he had went back with his friends. He said, I'll come back. And so I went up to my dad's, where he was bowling on the lane he was at. And I said, Dad, remember that guy? And I reminded him of the story. And he goes, where are you at? I'm going to kick his ass. I'm like, calm down. You can kick his ass if he follows me out. Well, what I'm going to do is wait until he goes up to bowl. And as he starts to bowl, I'm heading out and I'm going to head home. So I said, if he starts to follow me or goes outside, do whatever you want. So
Your dad would have
I,
killed him.
oh, absolutely. That's why I was like, oh, no, 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 I'm not showing you who he is yet. You're not going to touch him. But I don't want you going to jail. So he went up to bowl and I jumped in the car and took off. And thankfully, he didn't try to follow me. And I ended up moving to Hawaii shortly after that. So I never saw him again. But oh,
Oh,
talk
that
about,
is a crazy story. And you are so lucky on so many levels.
oh God, I was like, thank God. And at that time I didn't appreciate my intuition and I didn't listen to it when my body just,
Yeah.
because I get these clues that'll say, red flag or don't do this or do that. And when I would question myself, that's when I get in trouble. But when
Yep.
I learn to just trust it and don't even question it, if my intuition's telling me to do something, I just follow it now, and I'm grateful that I listened that particular time.
Yeah, I'm curious
Your
about
story.
a little
Yeah,
bit.
go ahead, Jacob.
Let's go back to when, you found him on the newspaper and your friend had, I guess, suggested that you go out with him. What was your relationship like with your friend after that? What was the conversation that was had, if there was one?
There was, I was like, what in the hell were you thinking setting me up with that ass? I mean, I just couldn't believe because he was such a good guy. Like, I was like, she couldn't have picked a better boyfriend. He was just a great guy. And I'm like, what were you thinking? And he said, I am so sorry. He was more of like an acquaintance where they just knew each other. I can't remember from work or something. So somebody that you just kind of know in passing, like, oh, he seems like an all right guy. And it wasn't somebody he knew well.
Yeah, that's
So
scary.
Sad.
yeah, so he felt horrible. He never ever stopped mentioning how horrible he felt for setting me up and, putting me in that situation.
For
Yeah,
sure.
that's terrible.
Yeah, I wonder
Yeah.
what his reaction would have been if they ended up letting you leave with this guy and something had happened to you. Was he the one that jumped up and said,
He
no?
did.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I don't think he could have lived with himself because he was a very sensitive, very nice, caring. I mean, he felt horrible enough as it
Right. I'm sure
was.
he wasn't expecting this guy to turn out to be a
A
scary
rapist
dude.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Your story kind of reminds me a little bit when I was in high school. I had to be like 15, 16. Went out with the church group, and there was a new guy in our church youth group. And we went and saw, our parents were all out of town. We went and saw Chainsaw Massacre, Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Hmm.
at the drive-in theater. And we went out with a bunch of people. And later that night, that one guy that was in our group with us broke into someone's house and stabbed and raped her.
What in the world?
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's
And,
horrible.
of course, he got caught and picked up, and then he wasn't in the church youth group anymore. I don't know what ever happened to that guy. I can't even remember his name now, but like where crap happens like that all the time. And I would say I have a pretty good inner knowing, but I
Hmm.
wasn't even picking up on anything that night.
You're
Like,
just totally blindsided by,
yeah,
I think,
totally
I
blindsided.
think
Like
too,
that,
because you can easily let your guard down just because you're in a church group. So
right,
therefore it's safe. Just like me, I'm like, oh, this is my best friend's boyfriend that's setting me up. It's safe because he knows him, but he didn't really know him. It's a kind of the
right.
same, where you have this
Well, and that's
trusting.
kind of the danger, right? Like if somebody called me up and said, "Hey, I have this friend and I want to set you up," I'd probably say yes.
Yeah,
And I might not even think to say, "Well, how well do you know this person?"
exactly. How do you know him?
Yeah. And why are you thinking about me? Which I guess for all of you listening out there, this is some good questions to ask as follow-up questions when you get set up. And I'm going to keep them in mind
Wait till
for
you go to
myself.
prison to meet your soulmate. That's the moral of this story.
It's a long journey, but it took you all the way to prison and then you found your true love. You really need to write a book, is what you need to do.
I know. I was like, oh, which story do I share? I've just got millions of them.
I know. I know. You've got some, I'm sure a lot of funny ones and good ones, and
Yeah.
but you've got some trauma ones too.
Oh, yeah. It's when I didn't trust my intuition, that I ended up in trouble.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think that that's a big lesson, especially when you're young. We're not necessarily really taught that
Exactly.
intuition is our inner knowing, that is God speaking to us. It
Yep.
is our connection with source and energy, and there's purpose in that. And sometimes we're actually gaslit, and it could be unintentionally, either through teachers or parents or whatever, to not trust that. But
Yeah,
but
because
when
you're
you
judging or you're,
right,
not giving them a fair chance or whatever the theory might be when they're doing that. But absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah. it's important for kids and for adults to really learn that that inner knowing is there for a purpose and it will keep you safe.
Absolutely.
What
Yeah,
were you going to say, Jacob?
I have a similar experience to this. It was actually one of our episodes. I think it was The Date with the Serial Killer. I think that's what the title of the episode is.
Yeah,
It's when I lived in Virginia, just outside of DC, and I think, Shell, you know this story. I think
yeah.
you do. And when you said Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it really like brought it up again for me because this guy that I had gone on a date with, he was obsessed with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He had it on his phone, like his
Oh,
screensaver.
wow.
And then I guess to like make the long story short, so you can go listen to the episode. The most crazy thing he said to me that night is when we were at dinner, we got Indian food, and one of the things we got was like this naan that was stuffed with onions and cheese and
Oh
kind
my
of
gosh, I
that kind
remember
of
this.
thing.
Oh my gosh.
And he
Ah.
takes a bite out of it and he just like squirms and he's like, I can't do it. And I said, why? It's super good. And he said, well, it has onions in it. And I said, do you not like onions? And he said, no, it's a texture thing for me. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, it reminds me of human skin.
Oh, yuck.
And I was like, why would that remind you of human skin? It was really
Yeah.
weird. And my alarm bells were going off, of course. Um, most
Ugh.
people would have left, but I was in the middle of nowhere in Virginia, and he had driven me, and I
Uh,
I kept going on the whole night with him. Like I don't know why I did, but it's similar to your story a little bit. But you listened and I didn't. Nothing bad happened to me, of course, but
ugh, that's scary.
Yeah, what is this? I want to look it up. Hold on. I'm quickly. I know that there's like some statistic on like the likelihood of meeting a killer, and it's actually very likely.
Oh, wow. I'm not
Like I
surprised.
just AI on Google is saying it's statistically very likely you've met someone who has committed murder, though most people don't realize that only a small fraction of murderers are caught. Estimates suggest you might cross paths with a murderer multiple times in your life,
Wow.
especially in populated areas, with some calculations pointing to potentially dozens of encounters, but it's impossible to know for sure as murderers blend in. Anyway, I thought it was, I've always thought that that was crazy because when I was 17 and I had met my husband, I was on the way home from his house and this guy was trying to pull me over. He was in a big camper, like a truck with a camper shell on the back. Like ones that has the door in the back and you walk up into it.
Yeah.
And he kept like pointing at my tire. And so eventually I pulled over, but that inner knowing was like, something's not right here. It's just not right. And so I just cracked my window the tiniest bit, like just barely enough to you couldn't even get a finger in. I was afraid to like have too much space in there because it was an old car and you can kind of really like force the window down. And I was
Mm.
aware of it. So I locked my doors and he's like, you need to roll your window down. And I'm like, I'm not rolling my window down. What's going on? And he's like, you have a flat tire. I need you to get out and I'll change it for you. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna go home. I'm not too far from home. And he's like, no, you need to get out and I you can sit in the back of my camper while I change your tire. And I was literally in just my swimsuit because I had just come from hot tubbing with my boyfriend. And I said, okay, well, why don't you go get your tools? And as he went to his truck to like get things open, I just took off and I ended up going home, but I didn't go straight home. I wanted to make sure that he couldn't follow me. And I ended up going home and there was no flat tire.
oh,
Uh,
And about 10 years later, I was reading a newspaper in the Sacramento Bee, and they were talking about the Santa something killer. And this guy looked like Santa Claus, and that was his picture. And I'm
oh
like,
my
oh my
God.
gosh, oh my gosh, that was the serial killer that I ran into. So I actually do believe that we run into these crazy things. Kim and I grew up in a time where
Mm-hmm.
the
That's
East
so
Side, what was it called? The
East Side Rapist.
East Side Rapist. And wasn't your
Yeah.
dad part of the people who finally found him or something?
No, but we think he was in our backyard. My dad went and got his gun and went out in the back. The dog
Yeah,
was
I
going
remember
crazy.
that.
And then you had that incident in your window. I don't know if it was the same night or around the same
Yes,
time.
where a hand went on my window and I called my
Yeah.
dad in my room on the phone. I called our, you used to be able to dial your house number and hang up and it would call you.
Yeah.
And I called my house phone so my parents would pick up in their bedroom. And I'm like, Dad, somebody's got their hand on my window. And he came running down that was the day they all had their shotguns in the house. My
Yep.
dad ended up making wooden dowels for all the neighbors, and we had them in our window. We were
And
so
our
locked down. It was
sliding glass
ridiculous.
doors. It was
Yeah,
awful.
it was crazy. Anyway, well, this has been fun talking to you and
Yes. Thank you.
an opportunity to remind people, hey, listen to that gut.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People are crazy out there in the world. Be
Yep.
safe.
I feel
They,
like I feel like at your time, like when you guys were dating in the 80s, maybe 90s, I don't know. It was a lot different than it is today. Like I feel
Yeah.
like people could get away with a lot more back then just because simply like your cell phones weren't tracked, like your locations weren't
yes.
tracked.
No, we
And
didn't have cell phones, Jacob.
Yeah.
well, like you know what I mean, but like
Yeah.
today, like if
You
you
can't look
met with
people up on
someone.
their social media accounts or investigate about them
Yeah.
or,
No,
anything else.
what's crazy, Jacob, is I used to sneak out my front window. My parents were very religious and I was a very free spirit child. And I snuck out one time to meet this guy and he was like 16, 17-year old, but he drove a white van with no windows. And I snuck out and would go meet this guy, and then we'd go drive around, make out, and then he'd drop me off, and I sneak back into my front window.
That is so funny.
Yeah,
I've
there were no
never,
cell phones. We didn't have cell
No,
phones. I mean, oh my gosh, I could have been dead. And I know, Kim, you've got stories as well. We could have both been dead a
absolutely.
million times over. Like, we put ourselves in some pretty bad situations, not
Yep,
intentionally, but just, I think we're both kind of naive, free-spirited, loving women at heart, and we just don't see bad in the world.
you just want to trust everybody.
Yeah,
You, yep,
yeah,
well,
absolutely.
I'm glad you didn't.
yeah,
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Anyways, all
Well,
right. Well, sounds good. Thanks for coming on, Kim. It was fun to
You're
connect and
welcome.
hear your story.
yeah.
Thank you very much. Nice to
For
meet
all
you,
our
Jacob.
listeners out
Thanks,
there,
Beth.
let this episode be a reminder to check in with that intuition. Listen to it.
But yeah, for our listeners, as always, make sure you subscribe and save. We're streaming anywhere you can get your podcasts. And make sure you follow us on social media as well. It's Romance Unraveled on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you have a story that you would like to share, you can reach out to me directly on one of those platforms, and I will get you scheduled to come onto the show. Until next time.